Good morning. Good morning, dear souls far and near. Welcome to this first Sunday of the year where we celebrate a new beginning. My name is Reverend Carolyn Paterno. I'm joined this morning by Reverend Caitlin O'Brien, and we will be leading us through this service this morning. Let us begin, as we have begun doing since this past fall, by acknowledging that the land upon which we worship and live and work is the land of the Nahantic and the Mohican people. We honor them. Let us begin with this beautiful poem by Cynthia Ryland. This new year, the sky will still be there. The stars will still shine. Birds will fly over us. Church bells will chime. Cows will have calves. Kittens will sleep. Flowers will bloom, a promise they keep. We shall have peaches. We shall have pie. We shall have ice cream 3 scoops high. Homes will be cozy. Homes will be warm. We'll curl up together when rain makes a storm. And in this new year, love will be strong, growing and growing all the days long. There will be goodness, there will be grace, there will be light in every dark place. The sky will still be there. The stars will still shine. Birds will fly over us. Church bells will chime. And with that, I welcome you to All Souls, where all souls are welcome. You are joyfully called to worship. We begin by singing our opening hymn. What other than Sia Hamba would we sing on this Sunday in the wake of Archbishop Desmond Tutu's death? We remember him with great admiration and respect, and so we sing this song to honor his life and all that he did to make the world a better place. Please join me and Caitlin from home.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Amen.
This is the time in our worship service where we greet one another and pass the peace, wish one another peace. So if you're so moved, I invite you to share a word of peace in the chat. Let us pass the peace.
Peace be with you.
Peace.
Peace be with you, Corinne. We begin this Sunday, as we do every Sunday, by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It is a symbol of courage and of faith. please join together in these words. Simplicity is an attitude of heart. It is honest and serene. We kindle this flame as a reminder. And on this first Sunday of the year, I want to lift up the reason why we light a candle of peace or a candle of gratitude each Sunday. We do so that we may hold that intention in our hearts as we move through our worship service. And so we begin this year lighting a candle of peace for the folks in Colorado who are suffering terribly in the wake of the wildfires that happened there this past week. I've spoken with my colleague, Lydia Ferrante Roseberry, who serves our congregation in Boulder, and she shared the terrible news that 5 members of the congregation she serves there have lost their homes. So we hold in our hearts all of the people in that part of the world, and of course, all people who are being affected by the ravages of climate change. Amen. Our story for all ages this morning happens to be by the same person who wrote the Call to Worship, the poem that I shared in the Call to Worship, Cynthia Ryland. And so she speaks of a kind of simplicity that will launch our reflection this morning together. We begin. Life begins small.
Even for the elephants. Then it grows.
Beneath the sun
And the moon.
life grows. Ask any animal on earth, what do you love about life?
The hawk will say sky.
The camel will say sand.
The snake will say grass.
The turtle may remain quiet. It has seen much in its 100 years, but the turtle loves life. How could it not with so much rain on its back?
Life is not always easy.
But wilderness eventually ends.
And there is always a new road to take.
Remember this. In every corner of the world, there is something to love.
And something to protect.
And if one day it seems nothing beautiful will ever come our way again,
Trust the rabbit in the field and the deer who crosses your path.
trust the wolf and the wild geese who find their way back home.
All these know something about life, that everything is changing.
And it's worth waking up in the morning to see what might happen.
Because life begins small.
And then grows. So ends the story.
Each Sunday, we pause to pay attention to the joys and the sorrows that we experienced in the week past. Joys and sorrows can be shared in the book in our lobby or via email at belovedcommunity@allsouls.net or in the online chat here in the YouTube service. Let us prepare our hearts for what is shared. Vivian shares that her surgery was successful and she's recovering well. She and Mark are so grateful for the meals and love and support they've received from All Souls. Our hearts go out to Jonathan Town, whose mother died on December 21st at the age of 92. And our thoughts are with Paula Nowakowski, whose sister Jane died in mid-December. We send healing thoughts to David, who broke his shoulder skiing, and to Cher, who has begun a lengthy recovery from foot and ankle surgery. And we offer our best wishes to Reverend Mark Roble, who will begin a ministry with the Unitarian Universalist Society of Wellesley Hills in Massachusetts. We are so excited for you and for them, Mark. Let us enter a space of prayer and meditation. Let us ground ourselves in a sense of the sacred. Together we will weather the illnesses and injuries, and yes, the losses of our life cycle. And together we will weather this chapter of the pandemic with gratitude for the defenses that science has given us, gratitude for the community that still holds us. May we enter this new year with simple awareness of the blessings that matter most. Let us say amen. And let us share a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you, Bill. Our reading is from Becoming Fully Human by Joan Chittister. As I write to you about simplicity, my CD player is playing a Bach violin concerto softly, and the fireplace flows behind me. And fireplace and quiet notwithstanding, I spend hours on the phone, talking to technicians as I try to arm wrestle into compliance the little 3-pound computer on which I now write, since I long ago put away my yellow pad and ballpoint pen. What is simplicity of life? And is it possible at all anymore in a culture surrounded by the gadgets, the food processors and the microwave ovens and the cell phones, and email and UPS tracking systems that we never actually foresaw, but now can't live without? It all depends on what you mean by simplicity of life. I myself am less sure than ever that what we've called simplicity in the past has ever really been simplicity at all. Deprivation, maybe. The cultural norm, maybe. But simplicity? Not necessarily. Not in the spiritual sense of the word, in the way that the ancients used it, at least. Here ends the reading.
Truth be told, this month's ministry theme is hope and joy. You heard me say 1,000 times that religion's purpose is to keep hope kindled, and I stand by that. But I couldn't muster the right energy for the hopey, joyful sermon, not even on this, the first Sunday of the year, a Sunday for which I love preaching, because the first Sunday of the year holds the possibility of an entire year, a blank page before us. But I couldn't get past what I knew would be before me this morning. A nearly empty sanctuary in this disappointing pandemic moment. We need to fill up, I thought, with the kind of sustenance that takes root when we dig deep to find new ways of approaching life, especially since our lives are so strange now. And even as I wrote it, I wondered about using the word strange to describe this moment. I visited my family for the holidays this past week. As my spouse, Kate, and I were leaving New Jersey, we're literally in the car and driving away to head up to see a family friend in upstate New York. My mother got word that a cousin of mine, one with whom my parents spent Christmas, was sick with COVID. A stressful search for the ever-elusive home tests ensued. We returned to my parents' house to await the test results, and blessedly, both my mother and my father tested negative, and so it was that Kate and I were on our way 2 hours later. In the face of this disruption, all that could be said is that disruption is just what life is all about right about now. Planning with a modicum of certainty is a luxury of the past. Nearly 2 years in, can we anymore call life as we now experience it strange? It's just life. And so how do we understand what it means to live well now? With life, as the story for all ages said, is not easy. And sometimes it feels as though nothing will be beautiful again. Something about simplicity calls us in this moment, calls us when everything is changing from day to day. So I turn my attention to a book I just picked up at the book barn, Becoming Fully Human. Caitlin just read an excerpt. It's by one of my favorite theologians, Sister Joan Chittister, who is a Benedictine nun. In it, Sister Joan ponders whether or not we are really leading good lives. She asks, here, in the morass of every day, here, where we feel overwhelmed and powerless and confused, with what do we measure our own lives? The book is perhaps even more relevant today than when it was published in 2005. She asks simple questions of life, the first one being on simplicity, and the last one on the so-called little things. We'll focus on the latter next week, and this week, the simplicity of life. What in the world could that possibly mean? How do we distill life's complexities so that we may feel a bit more at ease, at peace now? All of us carry some notion of what simplifying our lives would look like. We imagine a simple life as we live among the gadgets that Sister Joan describes and names, and that, like her, at this point we cannot live without. We hear echoes of our Unitarian ancestor, Henry David Thoreau, who went to the woods, as he said, to live deliberately, who famously commanded, simplify, simplify. And listen, I love Thoreau as much as the next guy, but every time we invite his memory into our pulpit, I am compelled to remind us that his mother did his laundry and brought him sandwiches for those 2 years that he lived deliberately out there at Walden Pond, just saying. So before you toss out whatever gadget or habit or pleasure you think will bring you closer to the mountaintop, here's Sister Joan's wisdom that says that deprivation is not the same as simplicity. That if simplicity is only about getting rid of things, then it is a virtue only for those who actually have things to forego. Is that good? And that's not it. But that said, let's not get too comfortable with all the stuff, all the things we hold onto seeking comfort when comfort is more likely found where simplicity flourishes. So again, what does simplicity mean? What does it look like? Now, where Sister Joan lands is pretty mind-flipping because she flips the whole project on its head when she reasons that, and this is her quote, even the one-celled organism is made up of atoms and molecules beyond count. Simplicity doesn't really exist, in other words, she says. We make it up. It's a sobering thought, spiritually, as well as scientifically. Life is not simple, she continues. There is no controlling it, no shaping it in the style of a slower, calmer, idyllic world long gone, if ever here. Instead, we need to learn how to deal with our complexities with simplicity. Simplicity of life is the ability to handle with single-minded unity of soul and serenity of heart whatever life brings, she encourages. And finally, my favorite piece of wisdom from Sister Joan on the topic. She says, simplicity is openness to the beauty of the present, whatever its shape, whatever its lack. It enables us to be conscious of where we are and to stop mourning where we are not. It's the end of her quote. These are sobering thoughts, spiritually and scientifically and otherwise. It's also intriguing because with this understanding, the idea of living a simple life seems a little bit more attainable with discipline and practice. The Shaker hymn says, the hymn that Bill just played so beautifully, "'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight." Serenity, delight. Ultimately, these manifest when we find ourselves in the place just right, free. Let me tell you a story of a place just right. It may not strike you as such initially, but that's kind of the point. It was 9 days before Christmas when with the board's support, All Souls Safe to Return team made the wise decision to return to online worship. As not a single soul pushed back, I trust that most, if not all of you, agreed with that decision. Nevertheless, it bears repeating. 9 days before Christmas, my hair may have been on fire. I went to sleep that night with visions of sugar plum disasters dancing in my head. But something really interesting happened the next morning at our worship meeting. Perry, Jesse, Tammy, Caitlin, Bill, and I had to reimagine 3 services, one of those being Christmas Eve, a service with particular weight and importance, and another was the concert that we had planned for the 26th. But it turns out I need not have worried as much as I had the night before because joy came in the morning. It was all figured out in a mere 45 minutes, in part because in the nearly 2 years since we've worshiped in person with a big crowd in this sanctuary, we've managed by continually shifting and learning new approaches. We know what we're doing now, but there's more. We long ago made a very big commitment as a congregation from the start to keep things simple. Simple. And 9 days before Christmas, that commitment paid off. But getting to that place of acceptance, of simplicity, wasn't a straight path. So we're going to back up a little bit. So this is a funny story. It's illuminating, but also funny. When at the start of the shutdown, The Tonight Show began broadcasting from the host, Jimmy Fallon, as most of you know, began broadcasting from Jimmy Fallon's home, and I was riveted. They were using Zoom, just like us. We had worship planning meetings then that typically lasted nearly 2 hours because we were just beginning to figure it out. But so was Jimmy Fallon just trying to figure it out. So I would say to our technical director, wonderful Jesse, who is, of course, right before me as I speak, I'd say, last night, Jimmy did this thing on The Tonight Show. Or, last night, The Tonight Show, they were able to do this split screen thing on Zoom. Or, Jimmy's music sounds so much better than what we're able to get out of our Zoom services. Can't we do whatever they're doing? Until finally, rightfully exacerbated, Jesse told me I was forbidden to begin any question with, "Last night on the Tonight Show." You remember that? We came to know and accept our limits while remaining open to creative discovery. We reminded ourselves what was most important: serving you, keeping this congregation together and supported with the same kind of spirit that fills this sanctuary when we're here together, and that remains in the air somehow in the sanctuary when we are distanced. Welcoming, caring, justice-seeking, spiritually seeking, and just the right amount of vulnerability and imperfection. Said the wise woman, "Simplicity is openness to the beauty of the present, whatever its shape, whatever its lack. It enables us to be conscious of where we are and to stop mourning where we are not." And so that is the path to simplicity that Sister Joan offers to us. It is one that is achievable, one not be a monk or Henry David Thoreau. We can just be who we are and aspire to be like the animals who accept life as it is in the story we shared earlier. And so let us resolve to be conscious of where we are and not to mourn where we are not. There is beauty in the present in which we are living, frustrating as it may be. Let's resolve to cultivate the ability to handle with single-minded unity of soul and serenity of heart the complexities that life presents to us in this time. We have a blank page before us, dear souls. Let's make it beautiful. Let's keep it simple. Happy New Year. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you into a communion of silence so that we may take a deep breath together and imagine what the simple life might be. Please join me and Caitlin as we sing our closing hymn, May Your Life Be As a Song. Caitlin and I are going to sing it as a round the second time through. Don't let it throw you. We just think it sounds pretty. And then we'll come back together the third time and sing it in unison.
Resounding with the dawn, to sing with the light, and resounding with the dawn, to sing with the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. The stars ever dancing
circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. So pretty, right? Such a pretty song. I invite you, as we have been doing these many, many months, I invite you to hold your heart with one hand and reach out to the community before you that you know, that you are so certain is there for and with you always. There will be goodness, there will be grace, there will be light in every dark place. So we begin a new year in a way that is different than we had thought, but we will find the beauty in this moment. We will find the beauty in this moment, and we will celebrate it rather than mourning where we are not, because where we are is beautiful. Go in peace, creating for yourselves a simplicity that nourishes your soul. And return again with great joy. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Bill. Yeah, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. What a great, beautiful song. Bill pointed out that song was not written, that old Scottish traditional, as a New Year's song necessarily. But that's when we sing it. We should sing it so more often, right? It's just beautiful. Yeah, so we should sing it in the summer, says Bill. So a couple of things for you, a couple of announcements. First, I will announce that Caitlin realized that we forgot to extinguish the chalice. So if you're concerned about that, we're going to extinguish it right now. It's extinguished. We're all good. A reminder and a thank you over and over again for your financial generosity. Your support of our ministries is so important right now, and we thank you. Thank you for that. Zoom coffee hour is happening after this service. I think that the link was put into the chat. Jesse, can you confirm that for me? I think it was. Okay. Jesse's going to put it in the chat right now. Thank you, Jesse. Next week, the sermon is the second part of this series of Sister Joan's book, Do the Little Things Matter, is the question that she is asking. And then afterwards, there will be a discussion on this two-part series on Zoom. And I think that we're going to make some reading available through the weekly news this coming Wednesday. So if you're interested in joining for that conversation, look for the link to some additional reading that you can do, simple, not very long readings that will help enrich that conversation. So I hope to see many of you then. That's all for now. Again, Happy New Year. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Kyle for hosting the chat, and to Jesse, of course, and to Bill, and to Caitlin as ever, and to Tammy for the beautiful slides. Go in peace, and we'll see you next week.